All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to our digital transformation of the workplace panel. We got very, very exciting speakers and topics that we're going to be covering today. But first, let's start with some introductions. Perhaps let's start with Ted.
All right.
Let's give our name, company one-liner background. Tell us
Yeah,
about yourself.
for sure. So my name is Tep Losser. I'm the CEO and co-founder of WorkRamp. WorkRamp is an all-in-one learning management system, and I'm excited to dive into the background here through the panel.
Awesome. Thank you, Ted. And Wyatt?
Hi, everybody. My name's Wyatt Oren. I work at Agora. We help developers embed real-time voice, video, and live streaming into their applications and websites. We've been doing a lot here in Future Work recently, and I'm excited to share more.
Awesome, awesome. And for myself, hey everybody, I'm Jeremy. I'm founder and CEO of Venue, Metaverse Events. We solve business problems by hosting events in the metaverse, whether it's helping businesses acquire customers, acquire investors, or advertise and engage your existing community. So super, super excited. All three of us work in the digital transformation of the workplace, whether in remote work, making it easier to work remote, digitally, virtually. And we're going to talk about all the benefits and the differences from working in person in just a second. But let's step back a little bit. A lot has changed in the last 3 years. Can each of you tell us a day in the life of you? What has changed? What is your typical daily workflow? Remote versus in person? Do you go into the office for certain things, or do you go in person to certain meetings or events? What has changed for you compared to 3 years ago, and why? Why has it changed? Why are certain things that you do virtual or digital? Who wants to jump on that? Whoever wants to jump on that first.
Yep.
Sure. Yeah, go ahead,
Yeah,
Ted.
go ahead.
Yeah, go for it.
All right, I'll take it. A lot has changed, right? I think once the pandemic hit, we were fully in person in San Francisco off 3rd and Bryant. So they had a nice little office there. And I still remember that day when everything started to shut down and everyone went home. And we actually kept our office around thinking, hey, we're just getting rid of it this month, thinking, hey, we would actually come back to the office, move into a hybrid work environment. And what was interesting in our business is we had always thought that hybrid remote was going to be the way to go long term. And then we quickly realized when the world started opening back up that actually people preferred in our business to go fully remote. So we're fully remote now, primarily North America based, mostly because of time zones. Right now, we're about 150 people to give you some scale of our work and or of our company. And I think the big thing now is it gives us all a ton of time back in our days. I remember running a calculation on this, and I literally took stock of all my hours before the pandemic and before virtual, and all my hours after. I have 3 kids as an example. And I, for example, tripled my time with the family while maintaining, if not increasing, my time working on actual work itself too, because I was doing a long commute. I was kind of unwinding because I was so tired from that commute, and I just looked hours to hours, and that was a huge change in the time I was allowed to allocate. And now I have a nice structured day-to-day workflow that really maximizes the work time, the family time, a little bit of personal time as well. And then to answer your question, Jeremy, I'll hand it over to Wyatt. And the only probably new unique thing now is now that we're work from home, every other week I try to at least get out to one event or one social gathering on a weekday to make sure I continue to actually see people in person, or I'll drive over to my co-founder's house. And so I try to do that about every other week just to keep some type of work human interaction going as well too. So Wyatt, I'll hand it to you.
Yeah. Actually, a quick
Jeremy,
question for reference, Ted. How many hours of commute have you cut out? How many hours have you saved in a day?
Yeah. So just from commute alone, I was spending close to 2.5 to 3 hours on the commute because I was going from the Bay, basically mid-peninsula to the Bay, but including parking as well, in traffic. Yeah, it was definitely taking a toll.
Yeah, it's a
So
huge
fewer
impact.
podcasts, but more time back in my day.
Yes, yes. And Wyatt?
Yeah, so actually prior to the pandemic and that tectonic shift, I was working remote fully. So I was kind of already used to the process of managing your time, managing your day to day, and creating that structure around that hybrid environment where, at some points, yes, it's nice to go into the office. It's nice to go and meet a person face to face and have a cup of coffee or a beer. But at the same time, there are so many advantages of that remote first structure. And I think that, the calamity that we all experienced 2 years ago has given a lot of people the freedom to enjoy those benefits. And I don't think that many people are now willing to forfeit those benefits because there are so many advantages that come with the flexibility of working remote. You don't have to spend 2 hours driving in a car. You don't have to pay for parking or for gas. You're able to spend more time with your family or have more ownership over your calendar. And when you look at it from a broader perspective, I think in terms of an organization, you have individuals in roles that could sometimes benefit from being in an office and sometimes not benefit as much from being in an office. And through this new sort of next stage we're all going through, it's going to be really cool to see what it looks like long term and what some of the companies picked up over the course of the past 2 years and how they're implementing those learnings into the foreseeable future of their structures. So for me, yeah, it was a pretty easy transition, just in terms of working remote and continuing that path. I did miss the in-persons. I did miss getting together with people, but today we have a company headquarters in the San Francisco Bay Area. So I try to go up there from time to time, about once a quarter, maybe once every other month. I am based in San Diego, so it's just a quick 1 hour flight for me. And yeah, hope that answers your question.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to combine something that you both said. Wyatt, you touched on the point that people, employees, don't really want to waste their time again, right? On commute on those hours. They have worked remote. They prefer working remote, having that freedom, time with family. Ted, you were speaking on the productivity, being more productive at work and being able to get more work done with the structured format, and being able to carve out time for different things. So, I mean, in my opinion, especially, me working in software and in tech, and, we've always worked remote as well. So, we as employers, as people managers, right, as looking at productivity and performance, we also prefer remote because it's more productive, because people are happier, have more freedom, more creative that way, and things like that as well. So I'd love to dive into each of your products and customers. So let's start with Ted. We talked about how each of our lives has changed. Ted, could you tell us about how life has changed for your customers? How do your customers like Reddit, like Brex, like Unity use WorkRamp? And the follow-on question after that is, how do you measure the learning success, WorkRamp being a learning platform? And what are the results that your customers have been seeing? So it's a multi-part question, but let's start with, tell us about the use cases for your customers.
Yeah, for sure. And so, for some background, so we are a learning management system. If you're not familiar with that category, we basically help companies drive corporate learning and corporate training to both their employees and also their customer base slash partner base. So that's a little background on us. And if maybe change your question just a little bit more to current day, because I think there was two different sets of challenges. The earlier set of challenges was like, hey, what do we do in this remote world, this pandemic driven world where the mode of work has changed? And I would call it phase two now is kind of this downturn environment. Now it's like, all right, now we have another thing piled on top that we need to go solve. And I think the latter is more visceral right now. And so when we work with customers right now, there's usually three big things for them that we see. The first is, and why I could probably attest to this, is go-to-market challenges. Is, hey, it's getting harder to sell right now. There's more competition than ever, fewer or less budget than ever. How do we actually sell in this environment? Then you go to things like employee retention right now. Employee happiness is kind of at an all-time low. It's really tough from a morale standpoint out there right now. You see historic lows on tenure at companies being close to the 2-year mark in the tech category. So really tough from an employee retention standpoint. And then lastly, we see with our customers is, hey, customers are no longer as loyal as they used to be. Churn rates going up. There's 37,000 SaaS apps in the market right now. Like they can literally pick up and go to another one of them at any times. And so those are the big three challenges we see with companies: go to market, employee retention, and then also customer retention as well too. And so what we like to say is, hey, in order to solve those three challenges, learning is a growth engine to help you solve those challenges. That is one of the biggest drivers you can leverage for those three big problems. Learning and training for making sure your sales reps know, hey, this is how I execute, this is how I actually position products to customers. Learning for your employees so you build a career path and a sense of hope of why they should stay at your company. And then learning for your customers to get them adopting your products more and getting them to become advocates of your products. And so that's our positioning in this difficult market that we're seeing with customers. And you see that with great stats like Reddit reducing their sales onboarding time by 33%, Handshake increasing sales sizes by 15% when they institute new programs like this. So yeah, that's a little bit about what we're seeing in our customer base.
I'm curious, Ted, about what you're competing against, right? And thank you for bringing up the economic downturn as well. It's very, very important. And we did a series about analyzing the financials and investment prospects and also sales side of the economic downturn. So please check it out if you're watching. But I love how you sort of outline what the state of the economy is right now, and addressing and positioning your solution to address these issues. I'm curious, is a big selling point during this economic downturn is doing things digitally is much more cost effective, right, than perhaps an in-person solution. Is there an aspect where WorkRamp is better and different from, say, in-person training, in-person seminars, and things like that?
Yeah, for sure. And it's a big part of our value prop, right? Is that you can push a lot of this digital transformation within your companies, getting the same results at the same cost basis, if not cheaper, right? If you look at some of the most, let's call it efficient companies like the Atlassians of the world, highly efficient software companies, they're doing it because they're fully remote. They know how to push digital learning, digital adoption throughout their organization. And yes, using your on-demand learning system or your digital learning system like WorkRamp helps drive down those costs while still delivering the same, if not better results. So it is a big, and that's why I was so excited about your company too, is Metaverse is another version of that long-term where that's really where you could drive down costs of, think about, I remember a friend who dropped a couple million in a web summit a couple of years ago. I think it's happening right now, the web summit in Europe right now, or in Portugal. Yeah. But like, think about, you could do that for roughly free, your sponsorship in the metaverse or at minimal costs. But again, it drives a lot of the costs down while delivering similar, if not better, results.
Absolutely. And I will just comment on that, and then I'm going to pass the question to Wyatt. But yeah, I mean, you guys were talking about, we're doing a lot of our day-to-day work, digitally on these platforms. But every now and then I go to these events. For me, as a person who goes to events, I don't really want to be flying to events anymore. Either. I work at home. I'd rather go to events at home as well. I don't want to have to drive from San Jose to San Francisco. I don't want to have to fly to Asia or Europe or anywhere for an event. And so Venue, with a single click of a link, you can go into this 3D metaverse, walk around, talk to people, bump into people, have these spontaneous conversations, go to the talks you want to go to, speak with the speakers you want to connect with, go to the demo booths and see demos, live demos, and experience demos, or sell and pitch your products and advertise. So get all the benefits of in-person without having to travel, or as an event organizer having to negotiate rent and set up giant structures of booths and banners and things like that. But so Wyatt, I'm curious, I want to pass a similar question to you. Can you tell us uh, sometimes as a outside person looking in, it's difficult to differentiate all the different voice and video solutions that are out there. Can you tell us about why your customers use Agora, right? And what makes it different, what differentiates it from other platforms. And the follow-on question is, Agora seems to have a big focus on driving engagement. So, would love to understand how your customers like Unity also and HP and Bose, you help them drive engagement, and also how do you help them achieve their unique use cases?
Yeah, that's a great question. Great set of questions, really. But first, I want to respond to a few things Ted mentioned because I just found what he said so fascinating. I think when we're looking into the future of work, one of the core foundational aspects is going to be the upskilling and the training and the coaching elements, and that's never going away. In order for companies to be successful, they need to invest in their employees and they need to give them resources to get better at their jobs and to learn new things. And I think doing so in a digital format like WorkRamp, where you're able to offer a broad spectrum of subjects and offer them not just to one group of people in a region, but to anybody in the company globally, I think that's a really important thing. And, maybe we'll have a separate conversation about that sometime. But when you just look at Agora, I think in terms of where we're at in this marketplace for the future of work, we're doing a lot of things to help companies kind of take features, take bits and pieces of, let's say, live video or live audio chat, plug it into their platform, and then all of a sudden they're able to test new theses and hypotheses they have about what might work for their users or what might benefit a certain subgroup about their enterprise collaboration. So, like, for example, we have this one customer we're working with right now. I can't say the name. They're a large entertainment company, and before the pandemic, they met in person 100% of the time, and they would go over different types of commercials and shows that they were producing for their network. And in person, there's a lot of benefits to doing that because you're all in a room together, you're looking at a screen together, and you're commenting on it. But during the pandemic, they had to quickly shift to a remote format where all of a sudden they were in a video type conferencing solution, watching a video next to it in a different screen. They were commenting on it in these weird one-off ways. And, after the pandemic kind of eased its grip, they realized that as an organization, they were going to be much better off continuing down a hybrid work format where now they only go to the office maybe 1-2 days a week max. So for the foreseeable future, they now have to have a enterprise collaboration tool in place that allows for them to collaborate in the ways that they used to in person, but in this new format digitally. So with Agora, they're able to take some of our live streaming, SDKs and APIs, and then quickly test some of these new ways for them to collaborate. And, with Agora, there's a lot of data capturing mechanisms and dashboards that you can kind of look at as a company to understand which features users are using the most, which features users are using the least, and then create new iterations from there. So I'll just leave that with one final statement, and that is when it comes to the future of work, companies need to be very adaptable and very iterative. And some of Agora's functionalities are well positioned for companies to try new things and test the waters with their beliefs.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. And I'll sort of speak on because we're an Agora customer as well, but I'll speak on our very niche use case here. You mentioned at the very beginning, Agora is your voice and video solution for companies, businesses who have platforms who also want to incorporate voice and video into their platform. Hence the SDKs, right? You don't have to reinvent the wheel. Use Agora, and Agora is made for that. You have the support, you have the account manager, they take care of you. You have the engineering, the developer support, and the bug reporting, and the feature requesting, all that set up within your service and also your tech stack to support that. So we use Agora to basically power our presentations, our screen share, our video webcam, and soon, this is a feature that we're literally working on right now this week, soon Agora is going to be powering our holograms. Super friggin' cool. Holograms of ourselves right now, like as you see, but
Nice.
in the metaverse. So they're gonna show up as holograms. So we're gonna do some magic on top of the video feed that we get, but we're using Agora. All that's powered by Agora is holograms in the metaverse. So that's one of our niche use cases. So a lot of metaverse companies that are upcoming metaverse conference in November 15th, right? We'll get to see that as well. So let's talk about challenges. So would love to learn. The question for everybody: what are the challenges that you and your customers face in the midst of this transformation? And we touched a little bit on the economic downturn. Feel free to loop that in as well. But in trying to transform from going in person to remote, how would you advise other companies like yourselves to navigate? How would you advise your potential customers, to navigate this landscape, right? So, what would what are the challenges that you see in this transformation, and how would you advise people get through it? Who wants to jump on that first?
Oh, Ted, I'm actually not able to hear you personally. Would you mind toggling your mute on and on button? Can you hear him okay, Jeremy?
Not yet. Perhaps we could pass to Wyatt first. Yeah.
Let's give Jeremy. Let's give Ted one final try here. Can you try and unmute yourself real quick? We can always splice this out.
Can you hear me now?
Welcome back.
Yep.
Ted. Yeah.
How's that?
Challenges. Good.
All right. I think my AirPods died or something. But can you guys hear me okay now?
Yeah. No, speaking of challenges, it's very relevant.
All right. Yes. Speaking of challenges, technical challenges. So, the comment I was going to make really quickly is the biggest challenge, which is digital transformation in general, is like, hey, digital transformation is all about becoming as nimble as possible using technology. And you see like Bill McDermott from ServiceNow talk about this, Aaron Levy. It's all about how do we just move more quickly as organizations to adapt to change. And you get the infrastructure in place, you get the technology in place. But the big challenge we see in our customer base is all about the people, right? Is you get that technology in place, like Wyatt mentioned, is like, but you also need to transform your people to adapt to that new way of work. And so we usually see people fall down in that regard is, hey, how do you get the right coaching? How do you have the right conversations? How do you have the right pulse? How do you use tools like Lattice to be like, hey, do people enjoy working here? What are the things we need to improve? But digital transformation is a two-part process, the processes and technology, but then the people as well too. So that's probably the biggest thing I recommend to clients is don't forget about your people, because that's who has to be transformed at the end of the day, not just your processes in technology.
100%. At the end of the day, the businesses are all people. Your customers are people. I'll touch on for Venue real quickly. The biggest challenge that we saw was ease of use. So my biggest advice for other platforms who connect people together, social platforms, business event platforms, is make it extremely easy to use. So that anybody's grandma can use it literally. So that's why we've designed Venue to a single click of a link. We spent a lot of work on that. Initially, it was very complicated to just log into Venue. Now it's a single click of a link. Everything happens automatically, and boom, you're into the event that you need to go to. The biggest challenge for event organizers, people who use our platform, I'd say is learning the little nuances. Most of hosting an event or going to an event is the exact same. We made that very intentional, so you don't have to relearn hosting or going to an event. But there's little nuances, like people's attention spans digitally is very different because they're at home. There's so many other things that they could do. So we really focus on optimizing your schedule, optimizing the matchmaking between business people connections. So you meet the right amount of the right people. You can get in, get out if you want, or you can walk around and bump into random people and chat if you like. So really optimizing that schedule, people's attention spans, making the most use of their time, I think is huge for users on our platform. Lastly, Wyatt.
Yeah. So, and to your point, both you, Jeremy, and Ted I think that the traditional 9 to 5 is more or less dead. When you look at people's roles within a company, and when you look at the new format here with potential digital first implementation, you begin to see that certain functions don't necessarily need to adhere to the 9 to 5 schedule, the 9 to 5 norm. When you look at, for instance, a team of software developers and engineers, there's no reason for them to show up at an office from 9 in the morning and stay till 5 at night if they're more productive at different hours of the day. That's a role that can be very flexible in terms of its hours of operation, and in terms of offering the employee a flexible schedule that allows them to be their best version of themselves. When conversely, you look at, let's say, customer success, that might be a role that a person would need to be at the office from 9 to 5 for, because you're going to need to be available during the normal course of business. If you look at a sales role, right, the hours might be a little skewed or different there, where perhaps you're coming in a little bit later, perhaps you're going out to lunch with different customers, different types of individuals. So I just think it's important for people to be hyper aware of each role and its specific demands, and a future of work that adheres to those things. But when it comes to some of our customers, I guess, and some of the competitor drivers out there, to each of your points, it is really important to, offer solutions and offer capabilities that allow them to experience the benefits of future work, meaning connectivity, meaning accessibility, and just engagement. We're able to engage with other people in different areas. And also, like we talked about earlier, being adaptable and being able to test new features and understand what works and what doesn't. So yeah, I'm excited to see what comes next.
Awesome. And the last question to send us off, what's your vision for the future of work, and who should come talk to you watching this, and what's the best way to contact you? Ted, you want to start us off?
Yeah, for sure. Future vision of work is essentially work. Actually, Wyatt, I loved your analogy just now. It's a workplace that adapts to the individual and makes them as productive as possible, while making the organization as nimble as possible to adapt to change. So really what that means is like, hey, the organization has its top level goals, and stuff can change on a dime. Like you think about when the Ukraine war started, or a 75 BIP increase on interest rates, and you need to make changes like that, right? Your environment can adapt to that, while also enabling those individuals, whether it's just like you mentioned, a developer to a sales rep to a CS person. How do we mold the work to them while still driving super high output? So that's the vision. That could be in the metaverse. That could be all the way out to hours you work and the technology you use. So I'm excited to see what types of technology will come from that, and that's what we're working towards at WorkRamp. And to answer your second question, Jeremy, contact me on LinkedIn, Ted Blosser. Easy way to find me on LinkedIn.
Awesome. And Wyatt?
Awesome. And yeah, totally agree there with you there, Ted. I think it's important to remember that when we look at the future of work, we're looking at it through the lens of our own predispositions and our own interpretation of what that means. And what I mean by that is, when all of us think about a remote setting or remote meetings, a lot of us think about Zoom, or a lot of us think about these types of video calls. And I don't think that when you think about virtual work, you should necessarily be rooted in a two-dimensional format. I think there's going to be a lot of formats out there, like Venue 3D, for example, where you're able to engage in a metaverse-like experience. And in terms of engaging in a new metaverse-like experience, I think there are ways that a lot of fun elements of in-person are going to be brought back to the workplace. Informal discussions, water cooler type conversations, where instead of having a conversation about a meeting on a daily basis, you're able to enter a metaverse type setting, maybe play a game of cornhole or ping pong with another coworker, but also have a productive conversation about maybe an informal element going on in the workplace. And I think that the future work is going to bring back a lot of those really fun, engaging elements of in-person, but it's going to be on our own terms in a certain regard. And I think also when you look at the future of work, there's going to be fun ways for people to claim aspects of their identity. So think like, AR, VR type facial filters, or different types of clothing type things you can purchase digitally. So I think personalization is also going to be a key element. And and also the interoperability. So like being able to connect, whether it's on a computer like this or a mobile phone or a headset, just the access points, I think, is also going to be an important factor. Yeah.
Who should come talk to you, and what's the best way to
Oh
reach
yeah,
you?
sorry, man. Feel free to hit me up on LinkedIn, Wyatt Oren, WYATTOREN, or send me an email at Agora, just my first name, Wyatt at agora.io.
Awesome.
Thanks.
And lastly, from my vision, real quick, I asked myself, why do we travel? What is there in the entire world? So much that we can't even imagine it. Why the future of work, of the metaverse, of the digital transformation, whether it's 2D, 3D, on a computer, on a headset, on a phone, on an application, on a game, whatever, it's bringing everything that the world has to offer into your own home. Whether it's people, friends, coworkers, business opportunities, culture, music, art, all of that the world has to offer is being brought into the internet and will continue to take form, take shape in the metaverse. So we are playing our part in the creation of that and transformation of that. Of just bringing everything the world has to offer into your own home. So if you don't want to, you don't have to. Travel, or if you don't have the opportunity to travel or go, or you don't even know who to talk to, or just physically can't. You don't have the human lifespan, the time to talk to everybody in the world or go to every place in the world. That's I think the future and why this is going to happen. So folks who should reach out to me if you love digital transformation, if you love the metaverse, if you love these types of things, if you think that there's collaboration opportunities with Venue, with having a metaverse to sell, advertise, get customers, come talk to me. My email is jeremy@venue3d.com, VENU3D.com. All right, that concludes our panel. Thank you so much to our speakers, Ted, Wyatt. Thank you for speaking. Super, super fun panel. I'm very excited I got to talk to you all today. Thank you for the panel. Have a good one, everybody.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I'm going to
Bye
stop
now.
the recording.